My name is Dave Coplin from Microsoft. I'd like to talk to you about the future of education with Microsoft SharePoint. Only joking. I don't even work for Microsoft, that's the joke. I work for Bing. Bing, you'll remember, is the only search engine that you don't sleepwalk into using every day. Ba-boom. And my job, actually, thankfully, is thinking about the future. What a great job. Nobody gets to prove you wrong, except my wife, always does. My job is really to think about how's this stuff going to play out? What's the future of technology? What does it look like? But more importantly, what does the society that uses that technology look like? Because we think if you can answer that question, then you can start to think about the kind of technology that's required to make a difference. So, in order to do that and to bring that home to education, there are a few things that I'd like to do. Number one, I'd like to set the scene, talk to you about some technology trends. These are things that we see happening in the world around us that we think are kind of important. I want to talk to you about some challenges and obstacles. This isn't stuff that Microsoft alone will face. It's something that we will all face, every single one of us. We'll face it at a sociological level, we'll face it in education, we'll face it at a societal level, government level, and we'll face it from technology companies like us. So these are things that we've really got to understand as to how we get forward. And then one of the things that you learn about Microsoft presentations when you go to the Microsoft presentation school is no presentation about the future should ever end without 3 or 4 key takeaways. If you remember nothing else, these are just the things you need to do. So basically, you can go to sleep for the next 17 minutes. I'll give you a nod when I get to the last 3 slides. They're the bits you write down, all right? So, first up, some technology trends. Can anybody tell me how old the internet is? 21, but it's a lie. Okay. Well, he likes to say it's 21, but really it's a bit older. We all do that, I know. Anybody else? 1969, I was on the military angle, right? So it's been around a long time. And we still think of it in really quite old-fashioned terms. We think of it about pipes, we think about it in terms of web pages. But the internet is massively different today in how we use it from what it was just a few years ago. Here's a little trick you can play at home. Could you put your hands up if you have a computer at home? Wow, right? Can you keep your hand up if the computer you have at home is better than the one you have at work? Or at college, or... Wow, what a surprise! Wow, isn't that insane? And this is what we forget, right, with the way that we use the internet, the way we use technology, is we're sitting at home and we're having this brilliant experience and we're chatting to our friends, communicating with our kids, buying stuff online, playing games, and then we'll go to work or to the office. And we'll be faced with this kind of bizarre alien world that's like 15 years ago. And not understand why we can't access all of this technology. Well, that's part of the challenge, right? Because when I grew up, you really did only ever see a computer in a place of work or a place of study. Now, as you all prove, we go back to a much richer experience of technology than we get provided with at work. And that leads to big problems for us, big problems for us at Microsoft, big problems for you in terms of how we think about IT. Because it means that this bloke, and it's not always a bloke, sometimes it's a lady, still exists in our minds. This is the epitome of my lifetime career ambition, is to rid the world of the myth of the dumb user. Because my proposition is the dumb user actually doesn't exist, but he holds us back. The dumb user exists for 2 reasons, ladies and gentlemen. Number one is because the dumb user wants to propagate that as a myth about themselves. You will know people like this. Hell, you may even be someone like this. These are individuals inside your organization or around you that wear their ignorance of technology like a badge of honor. And you know the people I'm talking about. These are the people who are like, don't know nothing about computers. Like that's a good thing, right? It's like, in a modern society, that's like saying, I can't read. You know, and you know, for me, it's just totally unacceptable. Yet, what do? We go, oh, you are a 1, aren't you? No, you're not a bloody 1. My God, that's insane. How have we failed that we've let people think that it's acceptable to say this about technology? And I'm not saying everybody needs to be loved up with technology. They need to have long hair and a beard and sandal wearing, social media loving. It doesn't have to be that extent. But even if they just go home and press the red bloody button, it's enough for me, right? To show that they're engaged and they can see the potential that technology can bring in their lives. The second reason the dumb user exists, and this is far darker, is because long-haired, beardy freaks like me in IT make it so, right? Because we'll be the guys who are saying, listen, don't worry your pretty little heads about technology. You leave it all to me. It's really complicated. You wouldn't have a clue. Really? When was the last time someone from Amazon or Facebook came round your house, you know, white coat and a clipboard, knocked on your door and said, terribly sorry, we've changed the interface a bit. We thought you might like some training. It doesn't happen, right? And you might bitch and moan about, oh, well, they've moved the icon from here. Fundamentally, as human beings, you suck it up and you get on with it. And yet, because of the myth of this person, we're constrained in what we do with technology because we're either running around pandering to those who claim that they're not digitally literate, but really are, or we're worried about how people use technology. Well, we know, you've just proved today that you are using technology more productively in your personal lives than you get the opportunity to use it in your professional lives. This is a big challenge. Then we have this other myth, right, that technology is just for kids, right, and new stuff, just for, I don't know nothing about that, I have to get my son to do it for me. Rubbish. We know time and time again, for example, studies in this country alone have shown the biggest growth in social media is actually older generations, making massive sweeping assumptions about most of you. That's people like us, right? No, normal people, right? My favourite test, if you want to see this in action, Thursday night, BBC One, Question Time. Follow the Question Time hashtag on Twitter. What you will see there is not a bunch of kids hurling abuse at each other. It's a bunch of grown-up adults engaged in democratic conversation about the running of this country. But the fact that the BBC even has a Question Time hashtag and they put the 6th guest on its Twitter, that says to me, this is not a niche thing. This is not for young people. This is for everybody. So we know that people are really resilient with technology. They use it well and they want more. That's a great place to be. And then we have these things. Does anybody know, have you heard the rumour that 2012 is in fact the year of the mobile? It's true. It's true. It's funny because 2011 was the year of the mobile as well. And 2010 and 2009. Since about 1998, I think it's been the year of the mobile. But I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that today, absolutely, 2012 is the year of the mobile. There are 2 reasons why the mobile is important, and we never talk about them, but we really should. Number one, for the first time ever, this is a truly personal device. If you think about the phones that you carry with you, if they're a smartphone, you're permanently authenticated to that device all the time, right? That thing is switched on, it's logged into your Facebook account, your Twitter account, your email account, it's your contacts. I will lend you my PC, but my phone is a very, very personal thing. And the important thing about that is it means that we can personalize the experience. We can bring you content in a way that's tailored to who you are. So that's number one. The second thing, which is far more important, is that these things become a window into the digital world wherever you are. They change your experience in the real world. I'll give you a few random examples. I have a young son, he's 6 years old. Anybody with a child of that age will know that Kung Fu Panda is a big deal. Stick with me, this is relevant. So Saturday morning, this is a few months ago, I'm in Sainsbury's dispelling all of the gender stereotypes about who does the grocery shopping in our house. But of course I'm in the consumer electronics aisle, because buying food is a whole other thing. And there I spy that Kung Fu Panda 2 has just come out on DVD. And I'm thinking, if I pick that up and go home, I will go home a hero. I'm talking tea and toast in bed, I'm thinking no chores, Xbox sort of privileges restored, life will be great. The thing that you don't know about me is I'm fundamentally tight, right? So I'm starting in Sainsbury's, which is not somewhere where I'd buy a DVD, thinking, oh, what do I do, what do I do? Without thinking, out comes the phone, quick look at the barcode, I see it's a good price, goes in the basket, I go home a hero. It's an interesting example to use. I've reached into the digital world, I've got some information that helped me make the right decision. It's an interesting example because we could then have a debate about how this stuff is causing the death of retail in this country, blah, blah, blah. That's an important debate to have, but we're not going to have it today. Let me give you another example of where this starts to come into to play. If I'm disabled, if I'm in a wheelchair, any good train station, in fact, every train station in this country will say, this train station has disabled access facilities. Well, thanks. If I'm in a wheelchair, that's useless to me. What I really need to know is from the position I'm in, to the platform I have to get to, where are the curbs dropped? Which of the 8 doors to London Victoria Station is the one that has the ramp? We can do that with these devices. That data exists. It's just about bringing it to the right place. And this will be the real disruption that these devices place to us. And think about it from an education perspective. Anywhere I am, I can tap into a rich set of information that can change my experience, change the way I think, bring new things for me to help me be informed. And yet typically what happens, and maybe certainly more at primary and secondary education, these things have to be switched off. They have to be left behind. And I get why that's important to an extent. But we're also switching a big part of the capability off too. And then I hope you have your bullshit bingo cards at the ready. I know presentation from a technology company would be complete without a slide with big data written on it. So here's mine. As it turns out, big data is really, really important. Do we have any pedants in the room? Of course we do. You're educationalists. So, you know, and I get big data. Data doesn't have a size. It can't be small, big, or anything. We might as well call it pink data for all that matters. But big data is really important because as we go forward and we connect to more and more disparate data sets, and we use this wonderful thing called machine learning, which is automating the learning process about analyzing that data and bringing it together and drawing conclusions, wonderful things start to happen. Wonderful services start to be created. It makes us much more insightful as a society. It brings us much more power. And there's an interesting example. There's a personal example happened to me over the summer. My son has a nut allergy, one of those nasty nut allergy that normally ends up in a white van, blue flashing lights. We went to Spain on holiday. I speak 2 words of Spanish, beer and scorchio. Thanks to this, and we have a service called Bing Translator. Other translation services are available on other platforms. See what I did there? I was able to translate real-time menus in restaurants, phrases to waiters, packets of biscuits, the ingredients on the back, just by pointing the camera of the phone and using a big data service, which is the translation. Thanks to big data and the services that it allows, I never went to a Spanish hospital, never sat in A&E, which as a parent is always a great result when you go on holiday. So we're going to see more and more of these services come, and they're going to change our experience. The thing I love about using the translation as an example, because it's a bit provocative, it's a bit like when calculators came into school first, and it's like, so why would you bother learning basic maths? Why would you bother learning advanced math? Why would you bother learning a language if you have access to this technology? I'm not saying that's the answer. I'm just saying you've got to think about it, that's all, before anybody lynches me. My great colleague Nicola talked about gamification. Thank you so much for opening that up, because we have forgotten about the wonder of games and what they can bring to us. We think about games in a couple of different ways. Firstly, there's the bit that Nicola's talked to us about, which is gamification. Here's one of many examples. This was done by the Volkswagen Group. They basically did a whole series of social experiments where they wanted to see if they could change people's behaviors by using game dynamics. This one's very simple. You'll see this pretty much anywhere around the country, specifically in London, you will. An escalator and a set of stairs. Everybody goes up the escalator. So they said, how can we make everybody go up the stairs? Without closing the escalator, what can we do to change people's behavior? Very simple. They just got a bunch of smart electronics engineers in, and they turned the stairs into a real playable piano. You can look at this up on the web. This is a brilliant video, because what you see is people no longer go up the escalator. They don't even just walk up the stairs. They start dancing up the stairs. They start jumping up the stairs. And it's just a little element, but it shows if you tap in to that rich understanding of what makes games good and apply it elsewhere, wonderful things start to happen. I remember when I was a kid having educational computer games, and they were crap, frankly, because they were written by educationalists. I'm sure there was a great learning objective within them, but they sucked as games. I'm embarrassed to say that my son has gamified a lot of his education already at 6, which is pretty impressive, but he's my son, and he lives in a house filled with tech, let's be honest. He knows his timetables, he knows how to spell, he even can speak Spanish, because some really good games designers have written games that help him learn those things. And they're games that he will play, as well as Angry Birds and Cut the Rope and things like that. He enjoys them, they're great fun. And I think the more that we do to the worlds that Nicola has talked about, and opening the world of the game designer up and bringing it to bear, the more enjoyable, the more interested and intuitive that world's going to become. But there's another side to games that are really important, and we forget about them. You have to remember, as a guy from an IT company, a guy in IT, I've spent the last 20 years of my life, how sad am I, trying to get people to care about technology, specifically business people. I now live this wonderful world thanks to the world of casual gaming. I'll give you an example. I live in Banbury, I commute to London most days. I guarantee you, every day this happens to me, I will stand on the platform at Banbury waiting for my train, and next to me will be a very smart gentleman or a smart lady, it doesn't matter, it's always different. And in their hands will be a Financial Times, a big stack of paperwork, and a mobile device. And as the train pulls in, the elbows go out, and we all move forward. We sit down on our seats at the table, and they set out their territory, right? There's the Financial Times, there's the paperwork, there's the mobile device. As the train pulls out, out comes the Financial Times. It's very important to see. 3 points, goodness me, that's that. A few more minutes go on, and it's paperwork. Look at all this paperwork, very important. You see, the more paperwork you have, the more important you are. Very, very important. 20 minutes into the journey, he looks around, He sees that nobody else is watching. He picks up the mobile device, and what happens? Angry Birds. Cut the rope. Every time, right? This is the guy I've spent literally the last 20 years to care about technology. Enough that he might carry a device. I don't technology, and paper. Paper, that's all I need. Good God. Because of bloody Angry Birds, because of flicking furry birds at pigs, he's now got this device. Brilliant, right? So now I can have a conversation. You see that, right? You see how good that is? We can take that elsewhere in your business. We can make a difference. And that's a really powerful thing. And then we're moving into this really interesting world of technology. How many of you have heard of the concept called the filter bubble? So this is that, you know, the search engines are hiding all this information. They're actually funneling all of this information. We only get to see what they want us to see. And I get why that could be bad, right? But actually, when you think about how much data we have to get through every day, we need a level of personalization, and we certainly need a better level of personalization than the one we have today, which to me is personified by Amazon. If I log into Amazon, Amazon will say, hey Dave, welcome back. I see that you bought books on Batman. Would you like books on Spider-Man? Right? On one level, that's perfectly fine, but anybody knows that there are two kinds of Batman. There's the dark, brooding, brutal, gothic kind of Batman, and there's a slightly camp 1960s TV show. If you understand which one of those I like, that will fundamentally change your conclusion as to what's personal to me. So we're moving into a space of where personalization gets better and better. Every interaction we make on the internet will look very closely at who we are and what we're looking for. But we thankfully know that the secret of good personalization is not to accurately predict everything that we want, not to anticipate 100% of our needs, because as human beings, we're not perfectly logical. So we retain a sense of discovery. Discovery is crucial to what we do when it comes to using technology. Without discovery, how do you ever find the author you've never heard of, the band you've never heard of, the book that you've never come across? Discovery is crucial if you are able to really broaden our minds and move forward, because it also leads to this fantastic place called serendipity. And let's have a text here today. Can anybody tell me what serendipity means? A couple of hands up there. Just shout out. Happy accident. Coincidence? Anyone upstream of happy accident and coincidence? Rubbish film. Excellent, excellent. You can come again. Serendipity is one of those brilliant words, right? Because we've forgotten what it means. Today we talk about it perfectly in those terms. Happy accident, coincidence. Funnily enough, a happy accident is just that, a happy accident. A coincidence is just that, coincidence. Serendipity is two things. It is the happy accident plus the sagacity, the wisdom, the insight to know what to do with that coincidence or happy accident. It's a thing that happens to us when we're in the shower or walking the dog or not really thinking about what we're doing, but we come across some fact and we think, hang on, if I take that, and that concept I read it 6 months ago in that book, and I turn it through 90, bloody hell, that would be brilliant. Serendipity is kind of the holy grail for innovation. It's where the truly innovative moments, the truly innovative transformations come from. And for us in terms of learning, for us in terms of knowledge, for us in terms of search, serendipity is everything for us, and we have to drive towards that. So I've set the stage as to where we are in terms of technology and where we need to go and what some of the potential that we have. Let's look at some of the challenges. Number one, and listen to this, right? So here's the IT guy telling you that your first problem is IT. And let me tell you, it is the problem. Because if we still live in a world where we think everybody's stupid, that everybody only ever sees a computer when they come to a place of work or a place of study, we are doomed. Right? We need people to be free. I don't want a world of IT people. I want a world of all sorts of different individuals who are engaged and empowered with technology. The sad thing for me is I can remember a time when that's what IT was about. We would spend time with the business end of the companies we work for, helping them to be innovative and advanced and competitive. And we've kind of forgotten that. And I understand why, and I know money's tight, and I know it's hard. But we've got to remember that IT is an enabling force, not a constricting force. Number two, as a society, we forget how long it takes us to adjust to new technology. I don't know about you, but I've got a great example in mobile phones. We've been around for, I don't know, let's say 20 years. And only now are we just beginning to get to grips with what they mean to us and how we use them in modern society. Two examples. I don't know about you, when was the last time you were having a conversation with a real-life living person who was standing in front of you? And your phone rings, and you went, excuse me, I know I'm talking to you in real life, but there's somebody here on the phone, and they're terribly important, so I'm just, going to answer this call. We all did that when phones first came out, because we couldn't quite figure out voicemail or vibrate mode or whatever. But it doesn't happen now. We're much more sensible about prioritizing our communications. Second, I can't remember the last time I was in one of these sessions, or a theatre, or at a movie, when somebody's phone went off. We're much better now. We've learnt how to deal with this technology. But the problem is we're not there yet with the internet. We're not there yet with the web and how we use it. We're certainly not there with social media. It's lovely sort of analogies. Phone's another good example. You'll have probably had this happen to you a lot this year. Sort of modern day dilemmas. You know, when somebody comes back from holiday and they show you their holiday photos and they hand you their phone, is it okay to swipe? I don't know. So all of these things are about digital etiquette and how we evolve and how we learn as a society. And then there's the big problem. The big problem is privacy. Privacy is a problem because it's different for every single one of us. We don't know, you know, it's like Microsoft or other companies like Microsoft can put out products and say, here's a line, anything above the line is public, everything below the line is private. We just don't do that because your line is different. Everybody has a different definition. But the challenge with privacy is we don't see it as a sociological issue. We see it as a technological issue. So what happens, the debate we end up having as a society is normally fueled by the media headlines. And the media headlines typically are, Facebook causes cyberbullying. Well, hang on a minute. I thought shit people caused cyberbullying. You know, Facebook may make it easier, may make it happen quicker, but it's fundamentally a sociological problem, not a technological problem. And yet, because all we want to do is to debate the technology, we never get to move forward. And I fear for that, because I fear that what will happen is we'll end up switching a lot of this stuff off because we're having the wrong debate. So moving forward, there are some things that we need to do. Number one, we have to understand that new generations, and even ourselves, have completely different expectations of what technology can do for us. Think about what you expect to have work for you. There's a complete truism in the world of technology that basically our demand, our expectations of what technology can do will always, always, always outstrip our capability to deliver. I had the most wonderful example last Christmas with my son. We were doing some stuff for Channel 4 News on voice recognition technology. And we'd got the pre-release Xbox code where you could control the Xbox with your voice. So the night before the interview, I'm doing my homework. I'm a proper spokesperson for the organization, as you can tell, fully rehearsed. And I'm there, and he's my son. He's playing with the Xbox, play this game. Xbox, play DVD. And then he stops. He looks at me. He runs off into the kitchen. I hear this little voice. Microwave, make my tea. Dad, the microwave's bust. And you know what? I totally understand what's happened. You know, so he's got a really good piece of technology. He's thought, you know what? If I can control the TV, I should be able to control everything with my voice. That is actually a good thing for us. But as we sit here and we try and plan the future of education or the future of technology, we have to remember that people's expectations are very, very different from where we were when we grew up without this technology. So people are coming to university expecting to use technology in a very different way. Have this conversation a lot about what's the role of a library in a university anymore when people have 100 meg to the bedroom or 10 meg to the student house. Nobody's going to come to your bloody library to use your computers anymore. So why don't you change that around? What they do need to do is to come and talk to people, to have people help them on the work that they're doing, or to have a conversation about or discover new things. And this is the modern role for libraries that we see evolving. Some of you I know are already doing this. Then we have this whole concept of we're not educating people for the future. We're just educating people for today's tools because we think they're still going to be using them in the future. And then I started to think about, there was this great quote from Marcel Proust at the turn of the 20th century, and he was talking about books, and he was talking about reading, and he was talking about when you read a book, you acquire the wisdom, the entire wisdom of that author. Well, my proposition to all of you is when you use the internet, when you connect to the World Wide Web, you assume the knowledge, the entire knowledge of the entire planet. And that's a scary thing. If you've used Wikipedia, you know that that's not always perfect. But that's also its gift. So we have to get ourselves to a place where we could access that information, but be equipped with the skills to know how to use it, to know what to do with it. And my fear is that we don't do that. As human beings, we're fundamentally lazy. We never get to the point where we're thinking about human plus machine. We're always thinking about humans versus machine. And this isn't Skynet, this isn't Terminator, right? But you can see examples of where we get this wrong every single week. My favorite example you will find in any local newspaper, which will be an article about some poor lorry or bus driver, and there'll be a picture of a lorry or bus just smacked into a low bridge. And the interview with the driver always goes the same way. And his response, so what happened? Sat-nav made me do it. Right. Okay, so you got in the car, you handed over, I'm just going to have a kip in the back, you figure it all. This is human beings, right? We're fundamentally lazy. But our gift with technology is to empower people, help them become greater than the sum of their parts. I use my son a lot for this material. I'm sorry for him, but you know, what the hell, he's 6. A few weeks ago, this is a true story, and it's the most wonderful moment. Saturday morning, Saturday lunchtime, wife's out, I'm cooking lunch, burgers and chips and peas, because that's how we roll in our house. Right? And he's there, and I'm looking after my son. I'm being the dutiful father. He's on his DS. He's playing Mario and Luigi Partners in Time, and the conversation kind of goes like this. Dad, I'm stuck. I'm at the 5th wheel boss level. Can you help? I'm like, John, I'm like serious cooking mode here, like chips, burgers, and peas. I can't help you. I'll be with you 5 minutes. So like any good father, 5 minutes turns to 10. 10 turns to 15. And by the time I'm finally ready, the lunch is set out on the table. He's gone, disappeared. I'm like, John, where are you? I'm in your office. My office? What's he doing in there? So I walk through to my office. I catch him red-handed. He's using my computer. He's got an internet browser open and a search engine. It's Bing. He knows to use Bing, otherwise he's constructively reminded. But best of all, he's typed into the search dialog box, Mario and Luigi, Partners in Time, walkthrough. Now my wife, she remembers his first steps. She remembers his first words. I walked up the stairs, a little tear in my eye. You're not going to believe it. He's just formed his first search query. I'm so proud. Because to me, this is the epitome of the journey we're on. Like, he sat there as a 6-year-old and said, listen, I've got a problem. How do I solve it? I know technology can help me. It can help me answer that, help me get beyond where I think I can get on my own. That's the journey we should be on with technology. That's where we should be taking people. And we don't do that. We tend to teach tools, not skills. I went to Manchester Poly. I'm really, really proud to say I did one of the first ever degree courses in information technology in this country. Do you know what one of my final year electives was? Word Perfect 5.1. Oh yeah. Right? Key command. I'm like Howard Bloody Jones, baby. You know, key commands and all that stuff. Can you imagine how useful those skills are to me today? It's just pointless. But we do this all the time. So I thought back. And just in my family's history, you can see how this point comes to bear. My grandfather went to a school without electricity. Like, no electricity at school. My old man went to school in a world without computers. This is the computer I had at school. I went to school, I went to university, well, Polytechnic, without the internet. It didn't exist. It exists, you couldn't use it. And my son, it keeps going on, right? He's going to school in a world without hover cars. And the point is that if all we ever do is teach people the tools that exist today, we're not preparing a future workforce. Half of the jobs these kids are going to get when they grow up don't even exist today. We should be equipping them with the skills to be able to make best use of whatever's available to them. Number one is about data scientists, about computer science. We need lots of programmers, people who can understand what to do with data. These are going to be the new rock stars of the future. But it doesn't really stop there. That's a niche, right? We need lots of good computer scientists. But our proposition is actually technology is about everybody. I don't just want lots of computer scientists. I want lots of hairdressers, architects, nurses, doctors, dietitians. Everybody should be empowered by technology. Whatever they want to do, whatever subject they're interested in, however they do it. That is our gift. As a technology industry, that's what we have to achieve. So there are some things that we have to do. If we're going to do that, and this is where the things that you start writing down now, okay, the things that we have to do. Number one, we need to make sure that everybody knows how to stay safe on the internet. And I'm not just talking about child protection here, I'm talking about understanding what privacy truly means, understanding what's the personal worth of your private information, thinking about how you communicate and portray yourself online. It's a really important skill that we don't teach anybody, we don't spend any time talking to people about that, and we have to do that. This isn't just about young kids either, this is every member of society. And then number two is behaving responsibly. One of my greatest fears for where we're going with technology is that we have not yet as a society evolved our etiquette enough to behave properly like human beings online. I know lots of journalists in this country who are considering turning off comments in their blog because they can't deal with odious idiots who just want to spout rubbish every time that they post something. It got so bad in Australia that they wanted to make anonymised comments illegal. Right, think about it. You have a society based on a principle of freedom of speech, and you want to make anonymous comments illegal. It's insane. Again, here's another sociological problem masquerading as a technical problem. So we have to make it unacceptable for people to troll online, to be stupid online, to be insidious online, to bully online. We all have a part to play in that. We all have to be a bit more mature about how we approach communications. We have a massive problem about finding information. From the beginning of time to 2003, we created this much data. We create the same amount of data every 2 days. It's insane. So our problem now is not whether we have access to information, it's whether we can bloody find the stuff. So again, we need to make sure that we have a society who knows how to use a search engine, knows how to form a query, knows how to interpret the results that they get and refine it. We need to help people understand authenticity. Did you know? I found this out the other day. Couldn't believe it. Not everything on the internet is true. My God. So how do you equip people with the skills to be able to interrogate information, spot bias, look at sources, tell them to really interpret things in the right way? But all in all, it boils down to this one thing, and this one thing is critical thinking. Critical thinking is the skill that enables people to make the best of whatever is on offer, however it evolves. Critical thinking allows you to embrace Wikipedia, for example, to read the article, to know it may be biased, to know it's been crowdsourced, to know that if you want to rely on any one of the bits of information or facts, you should double check it, to properly accredit people's usage of information and show that you've referenced different sources. These are the skills that we should be teaching all ages of individuals in our society today if we want to have the benefits of a modern society powered through technology. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.